Welcome to Fishing Without Bait, a lifetime without definitive expectations. Whether you've gotten here by accident or were kidnapped or just hatched here, welcome aboard. I'm Jim Ellermeyer, I'm a behavioral health therapist, and what we do is we help people explode into their lives through full impact mindfulness. And we're going to continue our conversation with our fascinating guest, the Beastman. So, how did you meet her?
Well, okay. So I've been in the pro wrestling business for almost 20 years. I have traveled all over the world, from Japan to Canada. Getting ready to go back to Canada. I'm getting ready to go back to Canada here in 2 weeks. Going to Japan again this summer. I'm about ready to go to Australia and Scotland in the fall. So I've traveled all over the world. I live in Wheeling, West Virginia. I live an hour and 15 minutes from here. And little did I know, on a sunny April Friday night in 2019, where I'd walk into Springdale High School and meet my seeing one of our podcaster who is currently editing our sound and everything right now, sit next to my future wife. So long story short, I'm at the show. I go out and I see my friend Sorg and his wife Missy and Ben Steele, of all people, who's a friend of ours, who's been in the business for a long time. And I look over and I see a girl in a black hoodie and sitting next to him. I'm like, oh, heyo, hello. So I do the match. I get to the back and I text my friend Sorg and I said, hey, tell that girl in the black hoodie, I said, what's up? I sure like to give her the husk. It's an inside joke. So 20 minutes after the match, I sent text, I go to intermission and go sit in my merch table. And here comes Melissa, who's sister. She's like, oh, hey, so apparently like she got the message, and here comes Melissa and introduced me to her, took a picture with her at the end of the show, and they all introduced me and Anna. And first thing I said to her is like, hey, I'm Wes. You have to excuse me because I use one of my patented pickup lines that I've learned over the years. You have to excuse me. I got a towel on because I'm just kind of like drying off. So you have to excuse me. I get real sweaty around pretty girls.
Mm.
Yeah, it didn't work out too well. She didn't want nothing to do with me.
No,
not at all. Not at all. I had, I saw the luster in her eyes when I was in the ring, but like, at that moment in time, it didn't work out too well. So we ended up hey, can I get your numbers? I'm not gonna. I'll keep them. She's like, it's all right. She's like, well, what about your Facebook? You won't find me on Facebook. Well, they put us in a group chat together, and it was just like 2 days later, she just said, hey, what's up? And I'm like, hey, and we just started talking. We were talking in this group chat, and it was just me, her, and Sorg was in the chat. I don't know why he saw like some stuff that he shouldn't have seen, but one thing led to another. We went out on a date, and one day ended up being two ended up being here we are now, 6 years later, married, and got a house together in Pittsburgh. I'm relocating my life, restarting my life again, and why me again, but good for the better. Because I was in a previous engagement where I actually moved away for a couple years. I'd like to talk about that later on the show.
Sure.
Like down like here in a little bit, but like moved away, came back. So I would never do it again. A lot of changes in my life happened there, but for the better. Then met Anna, and then just like moving 3 hours away, moving an hour away from home compared to like 3 hours away is a little bit different. So I have that cushion if something would happen because I can always go back home. But now it's like, oh, I don't want to go home. I love it. This is home now. I got my life has changed for the better. My personal life, like I'm happy. I got family. I got a family I never had, which has been great. Not dealing with the in-laws is definitely something else. We're trying to get Sork stock put back together, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. That's something for off camera. But no, every it's life is good now. My life is definitely like it's a my quote unquote story has triumph, tragedy, like a lot that you probably hear. And this is from a
You have your own story.
yes, and I'm definitely, and I hope that my story and more we talk about into this. I know it's a long winded intro, and I apologize. It's like when people ask about tell me about yourself, it's I can't describe it in 2 words. It's like if I'm going to go all in, I'm going all in.
I
So
hope so. The only thing constant about life, Wes, is change,
yes,
and most people resist it.
me, I embrace it.
Well, that takes a lot of courage to do that.
Mhm.
Most people stay in this comfort zone. That's a misnomer.
Well, I knew I've known when ever since I was like I would say about my early 20s. Like if I was ever going to do something with my life, I have to get out of my comfort zone. Like me personally, I have my bubble where I'm like okay with. I got my like a little area at home where I just like to sit and chill and not do anything. But you know, like I also have to like if I'm gonna do something, I gotta burst that bubble and go out and do it.
Well, sometimes we find out things that don't work,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just as important as finding the things that does.
That's right. I agree, and I've always been a guy that's never been afraid of the word failure.
Well, a big part of life is risk.
Yep.
A risk you can recover from. A ship can stay in the harbor and it's perfectly safe, but it never goes anywhere. Never has any adventures, never has any
Yep.
opportunities.
I've seen plenty of boats. I've seen plenty of boats ashore over the years, and they're content to stay. And they always complain about like, why can't life? Why can't life? Like, why can't I be this? You know. But if the only way you're going to be that is if you, like you said, you got to go outside and go look for adventure.
Most people live their life on ifs, buts, maybes, and waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen.
No.
There's two words that mean the most to me in any recovery and in the world, and that's action and effort. Set an intention, put action and effort behind it. And either it works or it does not. So it sounds like you've taken some risks, Wes.
Plenty of risks, and there's been times where I've stood on top of the mountain, banging my chest, and there's been a lot of times where I've had people step on me and have mud in my face.
Yeah. So you mentioned about moving away.
Which time? There's been a couple times.
Well, the one that you wanted to come back to and circle back.
So I think when you talk about making risks, this was probably my first risk I ever taken in my life. You know, I've always been somebody who's always been one love. I've always been like you said. I've always experienced loneliness, but there's been times where I've always wished I've had somebody with me. And you know, I met a I when I had my fair share of lady friends over the years. Couple of them ended up being a little bit who are better off being where they're at now. And what I mean by this is like they're married and they have children and they're with their soulmate and things turn out better for them. I was went through a lot of like relationships when I was like my teenage years, and a friend of mine, my best friend, uh, was dating a girl, and her best friend was looking for somebody, so they introduced us to each other, and that was like my first like real like relationship, because we her name was Valerie, and you know she's I just want to put this out here right now. We've had good closure. We don't talk no more, but there's closure there. She's married to a good guy, has a child. They live in West Virginia, and I wish her nothing but the best. There was a little, and I'll get to this in a minute, but like for years there was like really a lot of animosity there about how things ended. But I'll get back to that. I just want to put that out there. Like this is not a hate story at all. I don't hate that. I still love this person as a friend, and we are friends whenever we do talk. So there's no issues there anymore. For a long time there was, but the reason why there was because she was my first like real true like the first person I really truly was like in love with and who treated me like really well. and she went to school. She's going to school to be a pharmacist. I was an 18-year-old. I started dating her when I was 20. It was like a crossroads in my life because like I was finally going to wrestling school and we started dating. So it was like everything intertwined at the same time. And the problem was like when you love two things, and I love pro wrestling. Pro wrestling is all I ever wanted to do with my life. I didn't want to do anything else. I didn't want to be I thought like at one time I thought I'd be a great history teacher because I love history, and um, turned out like I said earlier, college wasn't for me. When I was in college, like this is how much I love pro wrestling. Okay, when I was in college, there was a show that happened in the college town I went to, and they left. And me and my friend, my roommate, we loved it, and we wanted to be wrestlers. So we went to the show. We conned our way onto the show. So, oh yeah, we're trained. I was trained by Killer Kowalski.
Huh.
Not true at all. Uh, so we ended up working the show. Worst match you ever seen. And then the guy, like, he had issues with the ring. He's like, I can't get the ring home. I was like, I'll tell you what, like, if we take care of the ring for you, can we set up and train it? You know what I mean? And he's like, oh yeah, it's fine. So we had a ring there for like 3 months. Like it was in this like big ass barn in Glenville, West Virginia. So like we would do like we were like doing like, or we did like, we were training. We like basically learned stuff that we didn't know what the hell we were doing to begin with, and we ended up actually running shows in that. We actually ran shows in that place. We paid the rec center $50, and we got to use the building. We had a ring, and like we actually charged like $2 admission, and like our profit, we made $21. We thought we were rich. So we made enough money. Like, as being a broke college kid, getting Pizza Hut was actually the best thing we could do then. So, but came back. So like that's how much my passion for wrestling was. I knew where like my mind was. I wanted to be a wrestler. I wanted to be in the wrestling business. I didn't want to do anything else. I didn't want to be I didn't want to go. College wasn't for me at the time. Was not for me at all. And I ended up dropping out. Plus like financial issues too. Like didn't have the money. So I owed them $4,000 and I couldn't pay it. So they're like, well, we'll see you when we see you. So struggling through jobs, like looking for like, coming home, what am I going to do? I probably worked every job that you could think of, from doing dishes to like labor work to working in a factory. And it just wasn't for me. I probably worked like probably 15 jobs in one place. So like for me, it's like, putting disappointment on my mother's face wasn't the best. She was very, because she knew I wanted to be a wrestler. She knew that's all I ever wanted to do. And like, I didn't like, she hated me doing it. Like she was very, her biggest disappointment was me being in the wrestling business. But I think now that's been like her happiest, like, thing to tell people. Oh yeah, he does. Like, cause now she brags about, oh yeah, my son went to Japan to wrestle, and he's doing this, he's doing that. And like, so like finally getting the admiration from her years later has been a lot closer to like any issues we've ever had. But back to like not to go off topic, but going back on topic with things. We ended up dropping out. I ended up getting I'm like, well, I didn't know what to do, so I had to find something. So I ended up going to and this all leads to where the story is going to go. So I know there's a little bit. I know I'm backtracking a little bit, but this is going to trust me, this is all going to make sense in the end. So I ended up West Virginia legalized table gaming at the time. So backstory. So I'm like, well, they just legalized table games. I'm going to go be I like playing poker, so I was like, I'm going to go be a poker dealer.
Ah.
Well, I ended up when I went to go take the classes for it, they was like, well, we don't have we can't do that right now, but we can offer you this, like, because I was looking for something full time. So I ended up dealing blackjack. So I ended up becoming a dealer at the casino for about 3 years. And then while that was going on, I was wrestling on the weekends, trying to make it out of that. I was getting booked out. I was getting booked maybe once or twice a month. So, and I later I like to get into the wrestling part too, because there's a good story of that. I was getting booked there, spending time with Val. Val was trying to get into pharmacy school, so I was at a crossroads in my life. It's my very first like true like crossroads of like what I was gonna do. So she got accepted into pharmacy school, and that so that kind of like changed a lot. I was afraid, and this is where like where I was. This is where true life like for being afraid for me came in because like oh shit, I had all this going on up here, and she wants me to move with her, and I'm I was like I don't know if I can do this. I mean I tried to like figure out any way. I was happy for her getting in, but now it's like, well, what am I gonna do? What the hell is gonna happen with us? I tried breaking it off with her, then like just because like you're going away, we don't need what I mean. We can still be friends. I had maybe there was like one or two other love interests at the time I was kind of like pursuing, but didn't, thank God. Uh, so I ended up like it took a year, but it took me a year to get like I had to get a job. So there was a job at the casino down there. Uh, I got so I was I ended up getting a supervisor job down there. But I ended up having to like literally pack, like stop everything I was doing up here, stop everything. Okay, now I have to go restart my life in a matter of like 3 weeks. Like I had to like, well, when I decided to go, it took a year for me to go, but like at this time, like I also started like going down south, like going down West Virginia more to like she was going to the University of Charleston in West Virginia, so about middle of the state, about 2.5 hours from me. So like all my friends, my mom, and like scared to death. Like I was 23 years old, and I'm like, I moved away from home for the first time. Uh, Moving to a whole like I knew Charleston a little bit, not a lot, because I've been down there a couple times to wrestle. But I'm literally moving down to a whole new area, restarting my life, and that fear I had ended up being the best decision I ever made because personally, moving down there got me to figure out who I was as a person. Got me to figure out myself a little bit. It got me to come out of my shell and not be afraid of taking risks because this is the first risk I ever truly ever took. And if it wasn't for that move, I would have met the people who I would have met mentors in my life down there to help me become a better person as a wrestler. And there was a lot. There's a lot of people down there that took the time to help me out. I got to work places down there that I never thought I'd ever get the chance to. I broadened my skills as a wrestler down there. Had a good job at the casino down there. I almost lost my job because I took wrestling more seriously down there, and I took wrestling. That was the biggest thing. Wrestling always came first. Uh, and that's why I think killed my relationship. And I think that's what hurt our relationship. She wanted to get married. I wasn't ready to get married. Was not ready to get married. Proposed, but I mean I'm not gonna hide it. I proposed out of like, well, I kind of feel like I have to do this because I feel like I'm being made to do it. So here you go. Will you marry me? And it sucked. And I felt like I wanted to get married, but it wasn't. I wasn't there yet. We were fighting a lot. Towards the end, she ended up getting a job in Virginia. So we ended up moving from Charleston back to. We ended up moving from like. We moved back home. I got a job at my old job back at the casino, which ended up being a lot worse than I was there the first time. Then we moved down to White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, which is at the end of the state in the middle of nowhere. Had a nice little house cottage down there to rent. There was also we were by the Greenbrier Casino, so Lewisburg area. So there really wasn't a whole lot to do. Wasn't for me. Couldn't find a job. Could not find a job for anything. I had a job up here. I got my CDL to become a bus driver, just to be able to find something before I go back in the casino thing. I couldn't find nothing. Could not find nothing. So we were fighting a lot, arguing a lot, and wrestling was starting to become wrestling was becoming more of a. I was trying to make wrestling more of a job for me. I mean, being 25 years old, making $20 a night back then, like 10 years, 15 years ago, you can get away like it's good for a day, but it's not like it's not paying the bills. And she was like a pharmacist, so she was the one making all the money. back then I didn't know what to do, so I ended up moving back home.
Oh.
Had to in order to like be able to like, but I think I knew we were on the tail end of things because like when something's about to end, you just try your best not to have it end. Like try your best not to get try you try not to have reality set in, but you know it's coming. Well, it came not too long later, and then ended up, yeah. And then we ended up breaking up. She even said like a lot of it was because of wrestling. I said you're a liar.
Hmm.
It's not because of that. Well, now I always like I always thought in my head like to make up an excuse was like, well, as soon as we broke up, she started dating the person she's with now. So I'm thinking like she was seeing him behind my back while we were, while that time apart when we were like trying to get our stuff together. But I don't know. I think in my head that was just in my head back then. I think it's bullshit now. So I think, we ended up, and I had so much animosity and hate for like almost 5 years.
That's tough to carry around.
It's so much baggage, because like it made me feel like I can't trust love. I mean, I tried to find it so hard.
And we're going to continue our conversation with the Beastman next week. And here's a free prescription that you can cash anywhere. Fruits, nuts, and vegetables. Unplug your television and take up fishing. And for a truly mindful experience, we suggest that you fish without bait. Please do a kindness for another, and please do a kindness for yourself. Please forgive yourself, and please forgive another. Remember, till all are free, none are free. Namaste, my friends.
Please check out our website at fishingwithoutbait.com, where you can listen to the show, comment on our discussions, and find out where you can subscribe to our podcast. If you're interested in flying the colors of Fishing Without Bait, click the shop icon on our website. We have clothing, mugs, cell phone cases, and so much more. Show the world that you fish without bait. This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.